Good evening, ma'am. Today we're going to presentation about our progress research proposal. Next slide, please. Next slide. And here's our member of the group. There is Keisha Askanaura, Pratama Bima Amanta, Safira Nirmalasani, and Zafira Kibaran Armadina. Next slide, please. And here's the table of the contents that we made. First, the title. The second, the introduction part. That is a background, problem, purpose, significance, literature review. And the third part is the methodology. There is a method, data source, instrument, data collection, data analysis. Next slide, please. And the title that we choose is Lexical and Structural Ambiguity in the short story The Little Prince. Next slide, please. And here's the introduction part. In the background part, language has many meanings beyond the literal. In stories, ambiguity makes the text richer and asks readers to think more. A good example is The Little Prince by Anthony de Saint-Exupéry. Though it seems like children's book, it has deep ideas about people, relationship, and how we see things. Its simple words have multiple meanings that make readers wonder about the difference between a child's views and an adult. This essay looks at the unclear words in the first chapter and how sentence structure adds to this, showing hidden depth. Next slide, please. And now the problem and the purpose. The problem is what kind of lexical ambiguity appears in the first chapter of The Little Prince. And the second problem is how can the sentence structure in the story of The Little Prince cause structural ambiguity? And the purpose is to identify and describe the types of lexical ambiguity found in the first chapter of The Little Prince. And the second one is to analyze how sentence structure contributes to structural ambiguity in The Little Prince. Next slide will be presented by my friends.
Okay, for the next part is a significance. First, the significance is providing a fresh linguistic perspective on a classic literary work. And second, re-examining Saint-Exupéry's The Little Prince through the lens of lexical and structural ambiguity. And the last is revealing how the author's deliberate use of ambiguous language is central to the story's philosophical depth and plot. Next point is the literature review. First, analyses are predominantly philosophical and symbolic. For example, like the words, the folks, rose, and shape, which is representing the essential is invisible to the eye, and then language is treated merely as a transparent tool to convey meaning, not as a primary subject for scrutiny. And then the last is the study questions not just about the text meaning, but it is how its linguistic structure creates the potential for wide-ranging the interpretation. Okay, next slide will explain it by my friend.
So the next is method. The study use a qualitative descriptive method with textual analysis focusing on the first chapter of the Little Prince. Especially content analysis will be used to systematic identify and categorize the instance of ambiguity, and descriptive linguistic analysis will be used to analyze the classic instance of lexical and structural ambiguity in the select text, and finding will be interpreted descriptively and support by example from the text. So the next will present by my friends.
Okay, thank you, Safira. So the next is the data. The data used in this study are taken from the little prints by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, specifically from the first chapter. The data consists of words, phrases, and sentences that show potential cases of ambiguity. These include lexical ambiguity, which occur when a word has more than one meaning, and structural ambiguity, which happen when a sentence can be understood in more than one way. By analyzing these elements, the study aims to understand how language in the literal prints creates different layers of meaning and allows multiple interpretation within the story. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next is the data source. The short story The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry served as the only data source in this research. The English version of the story, particularly the first chapter, is selected because it contained various examples of ambiguous expressions that are suitable for linguistic analysis. This chapter is also important because it sets the tone of the narrative and introduces the author's unique of language. It reflects both simplicity and depth. Therefore, it provides sufficient materials for examining lexical and structural ambiguity. And the next is instrument. The main instrument of this research is the researchers. Since qualitative rely on the researchers' interpretation and analytical skills to identity and describe linguistic phenomena. Throughout this analysis process, a data checklist is used to organize and record all identified examples of ambiguity, along with their context and possible interpretation. The checklist helps ensure that analysis is structured and systematic. Additionally, dictionaries and grammatical references are used as supporting tools to verify word meanings and sentence structure when needed. The next part will be presented by Safira.
So the next that is data collection. The first is research through chapter first of the Little Prince to identify sentence and phrase with potential multiple meanings. So the second, the text is manually annotated using linguistic markers to highlight lexical and syntactic ambiguity. So the third is each ambiguous item is recorded in an analysis table, including the item and its precise location in the text. So the last is dictionary or grammar reference are consulted to confirm the linguistic nature of the ambiguity. So the last is data analysis. For the analysis, the next step is data analysis using descriptive linguistic analysis. So the second, the analysis look at the language structure in chapter first of the Little Prince. The third in find example of structural ambiguity caused by unclear scope and modification. So for the example, like the phrase "arose," the only one of its kind in the whole world is complex. So the next example, the part of its kind in the whole world can be understood in the two ways. The first is describe the rows are unique among all rows in the world. So the second is describe the idea of the rose itself as special and unique emotional view of the Little Prince. So the next is this ambiguity happen because the press can modify just the rose or the whole idea about the rose. So the last, this allow the sentence to have both a clear meaning for adults and a deeper emotional meaning for readers.
Okay, that's all from us. Thank you for your time. Evening, ma'am.